right, let's flip it over, look to the defense, and I think you mentioned two words, Jeff Fuller, when talking about the offense. Well, the same can be said for Von Miller. I think he had about 3 or 4 sacks today, and I thought overall the defensive line played very well today. Still a little thin. There are some concerns there, some questions, but I thought the 2 Eddies, Tony Gerard Eddie and Eddie Brown played well, and then Von Miller.
Name for them yet?
We need to do it. Yeah,
I'm going to put you on top of that.
I'm lacking there. There's no doubt about it. And
it's laid up there for you.
Exactly. It's on a tee for me, and that's my deal. That's my bit, right? I need to get that done. There's no question about it.
It sounds like a sitcom or something, the 2 Eddies. You could do that. Just work on that.
I'll do it, but let's talk about Von Miller first. He's special.
Von is what I call Fuller, like a matchup nightmare. That's what Von Miller is to an opposing tackle. People keep asking me, well, is it because the O-line was banged up that he looked so good? Or no, he is playing a different position than he played last year on a different defense than he played on last year. And what's happening, Gabe, is that they are taking full advantage of his skill set. They are maximizing his potential by putting him where he's at. He is an NFL caliber pass rusher, and he's not a defensive end, but he's also not playing a linebacker right now. He's playing both. I hate the word, it's overused in football, but he's a hybrid.
Yeah.
And he's going to get to do a little bit of everything. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw him pick off a pass or 2 this year. He's going to, I think he should be a guy that contends in the Big 12, to be one of the sack leaders in this conference. Matt Moss has played well this spring.
And he's needed to play well as a guy on the other side of Von Miller.
And he told me that today after I said, how do you think you did this spring? He goes, man, you know what? He goes, I really like playing on the opposite side of Von. And he should. He should really benefit from that. But he's going to have to step up, or if not him, someone else step up to really take advantage of the attention Von Miller's going to get, and then also to take some of that heat off Von, because teams are going to be circling him and focusing on him and Trent Hunter when they play A&M this year.
Moving back a level, 3 linebackers had interceptions today. Kyle Mangan had one in the end zone. And the Hodges kid that no one knows anything about, but Michael Hodges, a little old. Everyone's going to talk about Mark Dodge. There's going to be some comparisons there. He's not quite knocking on 30 like Dodge was, but a guy who's going to bring a little maturity and some stability there. And I asked Joe Kynes right afterwards, will Michael Hodges play this fall? He says, yeah, he's going to play.
I think Joe Kynes really likes Michael Hodges. That's the vibe I get when you watch him, things I've heard. He really likes him. Me, I really like Kyle Mangan. I think he's a guy that caught my attention. You talk about a guy on the defense this spring that kind of surprised and caught my attention, it was Mangan. And I thought so going in, because you hear buzz from the players during the offseason and they talk, and his name kept coming up. The pads went on. He's instinctive, Gabe, and that's where A&M's been lacking this year's or recent seasons, instincts at the position. And I think Mangan, I mentioned Von maybe picking off a pass or 2. Kyle had one today. He does remind me of Brian Gamble in that sense, where he is always, or Joe Pavelic. That's probably a better example for right now's Big 12. He's always kind of getting his hands on a football, batting it down, breaking up a pass, picking one off. That's just because he knows where to be and when to be there, and he's got a feel for the game, and you could see that. I'm so glad they moved him to defense from fullback, because A&M pretty much doesn't use a fullback anymore, and B, he's a defensive football player. Some guys are, some guys aren't, and Kyle's a linebacker.
Yeah, with the linebacking core going in, Mike Sherman made it very clear that this linebacking core is going to have to do something in the spring, because you got a lot of speed coming in at linebacker, 4 or 5 linebackers coming in with a lot of speed. He addressed that again in the post-game interview right after this ball game, that, hey, there are some guys who played well, and considering the numbers at linebacker and the lack of depth there, and the fact that nobody really had a spot at linebacking core, I thought they held up well this spring.
I did too. I still think, though, that this fall, with all those new faces coming in, I think they're going into the fall, and I don't think they have my opinion, they don't have a starting linebacker right now. And I'm sure those guys were told the same thing. Hey, none of you have a starting position right now. I don't think anybody did that, but yeah, I would have had to have been encouraged by, you mentioned Hodges, we talked about Mangan. I think Garrick Williams looked a lot better this spring than last fall, a lot better.
He's playing faster.
Absolutely. The game is coming a little easier to him, and I think that's because he's in year 2, and I also think it's because we've heard them talk about it all spring about they simplified things. The coaching staff made a conscious effort to simplify the defense and do things like that. That's what they've done, is they've simplified things so a guy like Garrett can play. And you got to mention Anthony Lewis too. Yeah. Had the interception today. Is good to see, because Anthony's one of the class guys at A&M football team, and to see him pick it off and run, and the guys kind of clowning on him. He had that long return. Anthony's a guy, whether he starts or not, will play a lot for this A&M defense next year, and I think he could be a big factor on short yardage and goal line type situations.
All right, moving it back to final level here before we close it out. It's the spring football wrap-up here on TexAgs.com. The secondary, that's been the situation you like to talk about it, because there isn't anybody back there in terms of depth, but the guys that are there look pretty dang good. McQueen and the rest of the guys, I think the safeties are pretty much covered, those two spots, but there's still going to be some battles at the corner position.
Well, first of all, McQueen did have a good spring, and he's not your typical walk-on. I mean, he's a blazing fast guy. I mean, he should have been a scholarship football player and probably a scholarship Big 12 player coming out of high school. So they got a steal by even having him. But they've got nothing in the secondary right now in terms of depth. This is why the spring was tough. The secondary that A&M had this spring to work with, and the offensive line, what they had available in the spring versus what they'll have available in August, are completely different. I mean, they're going to look like completely different football team because of what they're going to be able to put out in the defensive backfield and on the offensive line. You have 3 starters out on the O-line all spring. Then you had, well, I say Lucas Patterson because he's kind of penciled in to start at left tackle. And then you're bringing in Ronte Scales, Stephen Barrera, Patrick Lewis, these type guys. And then in the secondary, you bring in that whole slew of freshmen, plus Coriel Judy and Jordan Peterson, who's going to factor in. He's going to be a depth guy on that defense as a fifth-year senior. So all those guys, those pieces to the puzzle, were not there this spring, and they at times they struggled to work around it, but they did. I think they're going to be a better team because of it.
Well, it's been a fun spring, no question about it. The two-a-days were an odd thing that we heard about, but it turned out to be a very good thing. Considering the numbers, it seemed like you pound this offensive line for 2.5 hours in practice, maybe that's not a great idea, and I think that was a big reason why they did too, and I think it's worked out good for them.
I think it worked out good for us because we didn't go to the 6 a.m. workouts. Yeah, it was a little easier for us to show up.
No yeoman's work at 6 a.m.
Yeah, we showed up at, 4:15, got left about 5:45 every day. Yeah, it was perfect.
It was nice.
We were not yeomen this spring at all. It was the football players that were, and I thought, I think that was something that the players, I think, were real caught off guard by and concerned with when Coach Sherman announced it. They adjusted to it, and from talking to the guys, they liked it. And I know it sounds weird. You're college kids, and they got to get up. They liked it, and they're going to like it a lot more now that it's over with. But yeah, I think this team needs discipline and toughness built, and there's certain ways to go about doing it, and that's one of many that they're working on.
A year ago, TexAgs.com thought about diving into the audio realm. 1 year later, rolling out a little video. I think it worked at the signing day special, 4 hours commercial-free, live footage of signing day as they were rolling in. We said, might as well do it for the spring football wrap-up, and then who knows, we may just continue to go into it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the plan, right? Yeah. I mean, we're not planning on stopping with this, so hopefully we'll keep going. And that's all because of Gabe. Gabe's so good on camera. He's great with the mic.
It's the new glasses.
He's upset. It's the glasses. He looks like Scott Van Pelt. A lot shorter though, but he's y'all got to understand what Gabe just did, because we went in a 10-minute thing about how he doesn't like to hold the microphone with his right hand because he's left-handed. So
we're all left-handed here.
I think I'm lucky I didn't get another chipped tooth to go with the one I already have.
Excellent. I think that'll wrap it up. Also want to thank Brandon Jones, co-owner of TexAgs.com, the man behind the scenes, the man behind your cameras. You're watching this right now. He made it all happen as well. So I want to thank Billy Liucci, Brandon Jones, and everybody at TexAgs for making it possible. It is the spring football wrap-up, Aggie football style, here on TexAgs.com.